Now, one of my favourite Bresson films is Pickpocket from 1959. Probably my favourite Bresson film up to the time of its release, along with Diary of a Country Priest. Pickpocket is involving, fun to watch, presents existential implications, like a canonical Western philosopher briefly invoking a tale or parable in order to illustrate some epistemological, ontological, or otherwise continentally philosophical point, and is one of the sharpest and most convicted acts of direction in the history of filmmaking, or at least definitely up to that moment in time. Pickpocket is a film I'm more confident where the classical canon of European art house features are concerned, but I could get more regular audiences, or those new though open-minded to that dimension, to appreciate, to enjoy, although I wonder if they will have some questions about how they're supposed to feel, or how the director Bresson wants his audience to feel about the protagonist by the close of the film. Is this the amoral, indifferent, nihilist wank of Marty Supreme of its time? It doesn't feel that way necessarily. Actually, the film's moral implications are centered around the behavior of character Jeanne, and whether she is forgiving and loving of protagonist Michel or not. Had she not returned to visit Michel in prison at the end after the 3-week absence, the film's moral condemnation of him would be assured. What is her pathology we do not know, whereas Michel we are privileged with his voiceover narration, which is compellingly selective. Information not known to us about Michel's behavior is information that Michel is not willing to admit or process in his own perception of his self. Captivating, strangely literary, and more effectively literary than literature, potentially, for a filmmaker. Not knowing Jeanne's internal data of consciousness, Pickpocket more and more begins to read like a treatise on the detached male condition. If the two poles of male behavior are represented by the conforming, well-behaved Jacques and the restless, insecure, yet outwardly arrogant Michel, then Pickpocket is a commentary on the latter pole, attempts to sympathize with it, and its response to female attention or lack of female interest in him or toward others is the function of its female characters. If she is a binary indicator of how its primary subject, the detached male, assesses his self-worth, then so is the other male character, Jacques. It is quite consciously subjective to the point of having its subject ignore and be in denial about things he did until it manifests as consequences in his external life. And insofar as Pickpocket is shamelessly exploring the pathos of the detached male at the expense of something more universal or egalitarian, some audiences may not really get its conclusion now, although it is attempting to infer a more moral or sympathizing stance than the frat boy idiocy, by comparison, of films like Marty Supreme, or God forbid the Todd Phillips Joker Drac, or most other contemporary films that attempt to explore masculinity in an age wherein it is certainly slightly more demonized. Whether it is demonized outright is the subject of debate, quite honestly, though end up just celebrating its excess as being aestheticized in fiction, whilst insisting it is being condemnatory and that Gloria Steinem is just great or whatever. Really, at the end of the day, it is vacuous. Forget whether we want to finger wag at it or not, it is so painfully shallow on one note, even compared with the conscious focus on one slightly insular male's universe, that is, themselves, within Bresson's clearly pretty influential 1959 film Pickpocket. There's a few very interesting films from 1959 that made the TSPDT list, including Fritz Lang's The Tiger of Eschanpur, Louis Buñuel's Nazarene, Yasujiro Ozu's Good Morning, René's Hiroshima Mon Amour, which there is an AOD upload of if you're interested in learning a little bit more about it, Preminger's Anatomy of a Murder, Truffaut's The 400 Blows, also covered on AOD previously, Satyajit Ray's The World of Apu. This channel needs more Satyajit Ray, and pretty soon, it really, really does. And Hitchcock's North by Northwest, covered on this channel prior, though I don't think the video was very long, so. There is also Guru Dutt's Paper Flowers, which I have not seen, for I have seen Dutt's Pyasa, which is a very good film if my memory serves me right. Douglas Sirk's Imitation of Life, but I've never liked Douglas Sirk, so I don't give a stuff about that whatsoever. Hawks' Rio Bravo, which I just cannot fucking stand. Most of Howard Hawks' films just utterly annoy me, frankly, and Bravo is no exception. Fuck you, Americans. That is some of the most hooray for a forced consensus, unwatchable bullshit I've ever seen in my entire life. Wyler's Ben-Hur is okay. I saw it at a formative age, and yet I feel no nostalgic attachment to it. I do get a kick out of the chariot race scene, but who doesn't? The film outside of that is not the most exciting undertaking of all time. Let's be completely honest. And then there's Some Like It Hot, a I've never really liked the old Hollywood canonical comedies all that much, as evidenced possibly by my lack of love for Mr. Hawks, presumably, and Some Like It Hot is not an exception. I have no time for it. Don't try to convince me otherwise. You'd just be wasting your own possibly valuable time. Cannot recommend you watch Pickpocket enough if you haven't seen it yet, or I have spoiled the conclusion for you if you haven't, so yeah, do whatever you like, fan. Thanks once more, see you next time if you are ever so inclined. Next time we'll be moving a few years ahead into the 60s for another seminal European director, this time one at the close of their filmmaking career, and what an excellent career it was. So tune in next time to see what title that would be.